He treats me like a queen, something you never learned how to do. The message came through on my satellite phone while I was on a deep-sea assignment 180 miles from shore. My name is James Mitchell, 49 years old, Marine Operations Supervisor, and apparently no longer worthy of my wife of 16 years. I read it twice, forwarded it to my attorney, and returned to monitoring the drilling operation. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting her royal treatment since before I left for this assignment. I was standing on the deck of the Oceanic Explorer, a deep-sea drilling platform operating in the Gulf of Mexico, when Amanda's text arrived at 11:43 p.m. local time. The message was followed immediately by another, "I'm done pretending this marriage works. I deserve better." I looked out at the dark water stretching endlessly in all directions, then back at my phone. After 16 years of marriage, Amanda had chosen to end our relationship via satellite text while I was working one of the most dangerous jobs in the world to maintain the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. I forwarded both messages to Patricia Chen, my maritime attorney in Houston, along with a brief note, "It's happening. Activate the protocols we discussed." Then I went back to work. The drilling operation couldn't stop for personal drama, and my crew of 18 men depended on my focus to keep them safe in an environment that could kill us all if we made mistakes. What Amanda didn't understand was that I'd been preparing for this moment since her behavior changed 6 months earlier, before my current assignment began. I'd been working offshore drilling operations for 12 years, ever since transitioning from the Coast Guard. The work was demanding, dangerous, and extremely well compensated. The typical assignment lasted 4 to 6 months, during which I'd live on the platform and manage all marine operations. Amanda had initially supported the career change, understanding that offshore work paid 3 times what I could earn on land. The schedule was challenging, months away followed by extended time at home, but the financial benefits allowed us to live comfortably in Houston and build substantial savings. For the first 8 years of our marriage, the system worked well. Amanda managed our household during my assignments, and we'd reconnect during my shore leave. She seemed proud of my work and supportive of the sacrifices required. The problem started 2 years ago, when Amanda began complaining about the isolation and suggesting I find work that kept me closer to home. "Other husbands are there for dinner every night," she'd say during our video calls. "Other wives don't have to explain why their husband is never at social events." I understood her frustration, but I also understood the economic reality. Onshore marine work paid roughly $80,000 annually. Offshore supervisory positions paid $240,000, plus hazard bonuses and overtime. The difference wasn't just about money. It was about building long-term financial security. 6 months ago, during my shore leave, I noticed changes that went beyond normal relationship stress. Amanda had new clothes she couldn't account for, expensive jewelry that wasn't from me, and a sudden interest in activities that didn't include me. She'd started taking yoga classes 3 times a week, joined a book club that met at wine bars, and began receiving phone calls she'd take in private. When I asked about her new interests, she'd deflect or change the subject. The final warning sign came when I discovered she'd been researching divorce attorneys online while I was in the shower. That's when I contacted Patricia Chen and began implementing asset protection strategies we'd discussed years earlier. Patricia specialized in maritime law and understood the unique challenges of maintaining marriages during extended offshore assignments. She'd seen too many offshore workers lose everything because they trusted that love would survive the practical challenges of their careers. The offshore divorce pattern is predictable. Patricia had explained during our initial consultation. Spouse gets lonely, finds someone available, convinces themselves the marriage was already over, then tries to claim half of assets they never helped earn. What's the protection strategy? Legal separation of assets, documentation of infidelity, and proper classification of offshore earnings as specialized professional income rather than standard marital assets. Over the following months, we'd restructured my finances, to protect the substantial savings I'd accumulated through years of hazardous offshore work. The process was entirely legal and properly documented, but it would create significant surprises for anyone expecting a standard community property division. 3 weeks after Amanda's Queen text, I received formal divorce papers via the platform's mail service. She was requesting half of all assets, substantial alimony based on my offshore income, and exclusive use of our house in Houston. Her attorney was Michael Rodriguez, who advertised heavily to wives of offshore workers and promoted his success in securing fair settlements for abandoned spouses. Rodriguez's strategy was obvious from his letter. Portray Amanda as the long-suffering wife of a selfish husband who prioritized money over marriage. He was requesting immediate temporary support of $8,000 monthly and threatening public disclosure of my abandonment of family responsibilities. What Rodriguez hadn't counted on was that I'd been documenting Amanda's activities for months, including her relationship with Derek Hamilton, the yoga instructor who'd been treating her like a queen with money she'd been stealing from our joint account. I called Patricia from the platform's communication room. "How bad is it?" I asked after she'd reviewed Rodriguez's demands. "Aggressive, but predictable. Rodriguez is assuming you'll settle quickly to avoid complications while you're offshore. What's our counter strategy? We demonstrate that Amanda understood and accepted the requirements of being married to an offshore worker, that she's benefited substantially from your income, and that her current situation is the result of adultery, not abandonment. How much evidence do we need? We have enough." The private investigator documented 6 months of regular meetings between Amanda and Derek, including overnight stays at hotels charged to your joint credit card.
I hadn't known about the hotel charges, but I wasn't surprised. Amanda had been using our joint account to fund her affair while complaining that I didn't treat her well enough. What's Derek's background? 28 years old, yoga instructor, no significant assets, lives in a studio apartment, and drives a 10-year-old Honda. He's been treating Amanda like a queen with your money. The irony was almost funny. Amanda had left me for someone who was treating her royally, using funds I'd earned working in dangerous conditions offshore. 2 months later, I was granted emergency leave to handle the divorce proceedings. I flew from the platform to New Orleans, then drove to Houston to meet with Patricia and prepare for mediation. The house looked different when I arrived. Amanda had redecorated extensively, replacing maritime-themed furniture with what looked like expensive bohemian decor. Derek's Honda was parked in the driveway. I knocked on my own front door. Amanda answered, clearly surprised by my unannounced arrival. She looked different. Yoga had been treating her well, but there was something harder in her expression than I remembered. "James, you're early. The platform schedule changed. We need to discuss the divorce terms." She stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind her. "Michael said we shouldn't talk directly. Rodriguez is giving you bad advice, Amanda. We should try to resolve this reasonably before it gets expensive." "Expensive for who? You're the one with all the money." I pulled out my phone and showed her a bank statement from our joint account. "You've withdrawn $47,000 in the past 6 months. What was that for?" Her face flushed. "Living expenses. You're never here to pay for anything." "Living expenses like hotel rooms with Derek?" She looked shocked. "How do you know about—" "Amanda, I work in maritime security. Monitoring and documentation are part of my job. Did you think I wouldn't notice irregular charges on our joint account?"
Derek appeared in the doorway behind Amanda. He was younger than I'd expected, with the kind of lean build that came from teaching yoga rather than doing physical labor. "You must be James," he said, extending his hand. "Amanda's told me a lot about you." I shook his hand, noting the soft grip of someone who'd never worked with tools or machinery. "And you're Derek, the yoga instructor who treats my wife like a queen." "I treat her the way she deserves to be treated. With my money?" Derek looked confused. "What do you mean?" I turned to Amanda. "You haven't told him that you've been using our joint account to pay for your royal treatment." "James, don't do this here." $47,000, Derek. "Hotel rooms, restaurants, jewelry, clothes. Amanda's been treating you both like royalty, with money I earned working on a drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico. Derek's expression shifted as he processed this information. Amanda, you said you had your own money. I do have my own money. We're married. It's community property. Was community property? I corrected. The marriage is ending, which means the funding for your royal lifestyle is ending too. We moved the conversation inside, where I laid out the financial reality for both of them. Amanda, you've been living like a queen for 16 years, because I've been earning $240,000 annually, working offshore. Derek's yoga classes probably generate about $30,000 a year. The math doesn't support the lifestyle you've become accustomed to. Amanda was reviewing the financial documents I'd brought. This shows much less money than I expected. That's because most of my offshore earnings are held in structures that protect them from exactly this situation. What do you mean? I pulled out additional documents prepared by Patricia. Maritime workers' specialized earnings, hazard pay and offshore bonuses are treated differently in divorce proceedings than standard wages. Derek was looking increasingly uncomfortable as he realized the financial implications of Amanda's decision. How much are you prepared to offer in settlement? Amanda asked. The house, your car, and $75,000 in cash. That's nothing compared to what you earn. It's substantially more than you'd receive after legal fees if we litigate this, especially given the adultery evidence. Derek stood up suddenly. I think I should go. This is between you two. Actually, Derek, you're part of this, I said calmly. You've been benefiting from marital assets for 6 months. That makes you a party to the financial misconduct. His face went pale. I didn't know the money was coming from joint accounts. Ignorance isn't a legal defense, but it does make you a witness to Amanda's spending patterns. After Derek left, Amanda and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals over 16 years. This isn't how I wanted this to end, she said quietly. Neither did I. But once you started the affair, you made choices that have consequences. I was lonely, James. You're gone for months at a time. I understand that maritime marriages are different, but the solution to loneliness isn't adultery funded with marital assets. Amanda was quiet for several minutes. What if I don't accept your settlement offer? Then we'll proceed with contested divorce proceedings that will include full disclosure of the adultery evidence, the misuse of joint funds, and a detailed examination of how maritime assets are actually divided. How long would that take? 12 to 18 months, during which I'll complete my current assignment and accept another offshore contract. You'll be paying attorney fees for a case you're unlikely to win. And Derek? Derek will learn that treating someone like a queen requires earning the money to pay for it. 3 days later, Amanda accepted the settlement offer. The divorce was finalized 4 months after that. While I was working my next offshore assignment, I received the final papers via satellite communication. While monitoring a drilling operation in the North Atlantic, Amanda kept the house, her car, and the cash settlement. I kept my offshore earnings, my specialized maritime assets, and my professional reputation. 6 months after the divorce was final, I received an unexpected email from Derek. James, he wrote, I wanted to apologize for my role in the end of your marriage. I didn't understand the financial situation or how much damage was being done. Amanda and I broke up last month when she couldn't maintain the lifestyle she was accustomed to on my yoga instructor salary. I didn't reply immediately. When I finally responded, I kept it brief. No hard feelings, Derek. Some lessons are expensive, but they're usually worth learning. A year later, I was working a new assignment off the coast of Norway when Patricia called with an update. Thought you might want to know, she said. Amanda's house is in foreclosure. Apparently, she couldn't manage the property taxes and maintenance on her settlement money alone. That's unfortunate, I replied, and meant it. I didn't want to see Amanda struggle financially, but I also understood that choices have consequences. There's more. Rodriguez lost his law license last month. Apparently, he was caught encouraging clients to misrepresent assets in divorce proceedings. And Derek? Still teaching yoga, as far as I know. Probably more careful about who he treats like royal. 2 years after Amanda's queen text, I was completing my most lucrative assignment yet, a deep-sea operation off the coast of Brazil that would add $180,000 to my annual income. I thought about Amanda occasionally, wondering if she'd learned anything from the experience or if she still believed that being treated like a queen was something owed to her rather than something earned through mutual commitment and sacrifice. The truth was more complex than her fairy tale expectations. Real partnership wasn't about royal treatment. It was about understanding that love requires both emotional support and practical sacrifice. Amanda had wanted the benefits of being married to a high-earning offshore worker without accepting the challenges that came with that lifestyle. When she found someone who promised her royal treatment, she'd abandon the marriage without considering the economic foundation that made her royal lifestyle possible. Derek had offered her attention and availability, but he'd been funding that royal treatment with my earnings. When that funding stopped, so did the relationship. As I stood on the deck of the platform, watching the sun set over the South Atlantic, I reflected on the lessons I'd learned from the experience. Trust without verification is just wishful thinking. Love without financial responsibility is just expensive entertainment. And treating someone like a queen requires earning enough money to afford a kingdom. Amanda had learned these lessons expensively, but she'd learned them completely. Derek had learned that royal treatment costs more than yoga instructor wages can support. And Rodriguez had learned that legal success, built on deception, eventually collapsed. I'd learned that preparation and documentation are more valuable than trust and hope when a marriage starts showing signs of strain. The final lesson came 18 months later, when I received a LinkedIn message from Amanda. James, I hope you're doing well. I wanted you to know that I understand now why you worked so hard offshore. I didn't appreciate what you were building for us. I'm sorry for how things ended. I replied briefly. I hope you're finding happiness, Amanda. Sometimes we learn our most important lessons after it's too late to apply them. Her response came back quickly. Do you think it's ever really too late? I thought about her question while watching cargo ships pass in the distance, carrying goods between continents, operated by crews who understood the sacrifice required to maintain both safety and profitability in dangerous conditions. For us, yes, I wrote, but not for the lessons we learned. Some relationships can survive the stress of demanding careers and extended separations. Others can't. The difference isn't usually about love. It's about understanding the practical requirements of commitment and the difference between wanting to be treated like royalty and being willing to build the foundation that makes royal treatment sustainable. Amanda had wanted to be a queen without understanding that kingdoms require kings who are willing to work dangerous jobs in distant places to maintain the treasury. Derek had wanted to be a king without understanding that royal treatment requires royal. And I'd learned that the best response to being told you don't treat someone like a queen is to let them discover what royal treatment actually costs when you're not paying for it.